One main sheet. Okay, well, welcome to our speaker series. We are excited to have Ms. Allison Dumas on campus today to speak to our students. And so this is our final series of the fall. Can't believe we're already in November, but here we are. And so again, we're excited to have Allison on campus today. But before we get started with our speaker, I wanted just to remind you guys before when this concludes, please register and share your feedback with us. As always, we're looking to improve anything that we do, and so we'd love to get your feedback and then also register as well. Again, this event wouldn't be possible without the support of Campus Rebel, and we have instructors here today to say a few words about that organization and all the good stuff that they do and provide for both our students and our employees here in Louisiana and LSU. So, Roxanne.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity just to say a few words. Campus Federal is happy to partner with the LSU Agriculture Student Association to sponsor this College of Ag Alumni Speaker Series. So this is a great opportunity for students to hear from alumni regarding their careers. And just like these alumni want to make a difference in your life, so does Campus Federal. We were started in 1934. We are a full-service financial institution with 2 locations here on campus. We have one in the Student Union and then one on South Quad Drive near the Energy Coast and Environment Building. But just so you know, we are committed to excellent member experiences, and we have continual investments in our digital and our physical presence. So try to capture both of the audience. You can visit us at campusfederal.org to learn more about our products and services that we offer, or you can open an account and check out our extensive financial education resources. So in addition to learning in the classroom, you can learn about your finances, which become very important whenever you go out and get a job. And so you want to make sure you start off on the right foot. And we do have those resources available. You do not have to be a member to access this information. You can look at a variety of topics, whatever you're interested in, and think that'll help you manage your money. But I like to encourage everybody to have a plan, and I think that those resources can help you do that. Campus Federal strives to be a trusted financial partner in every stage of your life, and you'll see that with our products and services and our financial education centers. That everything that we offer can help you wherever you're at. So we appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much. Good luck. Finish the semester strong, and we appreciate your support. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne. As always, I'm a member of Campus Federal, so I always like to recommend them as well. They have great customer service and great opportunity offers there available. So consider that if you're looking for a financial institution. Like Roxanne said, this event is sponsored by our Ag Student Association, and here are officers of that organization up on the screen. Ms. Michael is going to introduce the speaker today as a representative for them. And so, Michael, if you want to come up, I'll let you introduce Allison, and we'll get started.
So good morning, everyone. I would like to thank you once again on behalf of the Agriculture Student Association for coming to our final installment of the Ag Speaker Series. And I will be introducing Allison Dumas today. Thank you so much for coming. Allison Dumas is a Baton Rouge native and a 3rd-generation LSU College of Agriculture graduate. She received a Bachelor of Science in 2004 and a Master of Science in Food Science in 2006. Allison has over 15 years of experience in food safety and quality assurance, both in the public and private sectors. She is currently the Assistant Director for the Poultry and Egg and Food and Quality Services with the Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry. In this role, she's responsible for overseeing a variety of programs related to the quality and safety of poultry, eggs, fruits, and vegetables. Allison also works with the Louisiana Egg Commission to promote the egg industry in the state. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Allison Dumas to the podium to speak.
Give me a second to get.
Use your eyesight. I'm still working. Do you need my help?
I got it. All right, so thank you, College of Ag Student Association, for asking me to be here today. I think I was a fill-in at the last minute, and I was glad to do that. So I'm glad to give back anytime I can to the College of Agriculture. And today I'm going to talk about growing and harvesting the best stew, and that's going to tie into, obviously, I work with fruits and vegetables. So I'm going to talk about growing the best stew that you possibly can be going into your careers. So, like Michael said a little bit about me, I am a two-time graduate of the LSU College of Agriculture. Did get my bachelor's and my master's in food science. And I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning when I got here and talk about how I got to those degrees. I am a Baton Rouge native. I did grow up in Denham Springs, graduated from high school in Denham Springs, and then came back to Baton Rouge to go to college. I'm a proud aunt of hopefully 3 future tigers. There's Bennett, Everett, and Nora. Been with my brother's children. Loves of my life. And I am a member of the College of Agriculture Alumni Association Board. And that picture down at the bottom is of last year's Cocktails and Cuisine. My coworker, Jeremy Hendricks, who's also on the board, received the Outstanding Young Alumni Award at the award ceremony. And so that's us with some of our coworkers after he accepted his award. And I also get to, in my free time, the little bit of free time that I do have, I like to give back to not only LSU, but the community. So I serve as an alumni advisor for the Zeta chapter of Sigma Alpha sorority here on campus. For those of you that don't know about Sigma Alpha, it is the campus's only social and professional sorority. And it is geared towards women pursuing careers in agriculture. So if you're interested, I'd love to talk to you about it. If you're looking for a home on campus, because it certainly became one for me while I was here. And I also am a new member of the Baton Rouge Junior League. We are a service league here in the Baton Rouge area and go out and do community service. And I really enjoy that, and it keeps me busy, like I said, in a little bit of free time that I do have. So why LSU and the College of Agriculture? Simply put, I have been bleeding purple and gold since the day I was born. I am, like Michael said, I'm a 3rd generation College of Agriculture graduate, 3rd generation LSU graduate. And unfortunately, this picture down in the bottom, I come from the era of actual physical pictures, so they don't always translate well to digital. So this picture in the bottom is a picture of me at about 4 years old. I grew up in agriculture, didn't grow up on a farm, but grew up around agriculture because my parents, my dad, my grandpa were involved in agriculture. That man in that picture is my maternal grandfather, Bo Nipper. He was the first graduate of the College of Agriculture in our family. And he got his bachelor's at what is now Oklahoma State. And after World War II, came to LSU and got a master's of science in animal science and spent most of his career in working for the LSU Ag Center. He worked as a research associate at the Red River Research Center in Bossier City, and then was the resident director of the Dean Lee Research Center in Alexandria, and that's where he retired from back in the early 80s. And so I grew up in agriculture. He was involved, my dad was involved. My dad was a 1st generation college student, came to LSU and got 3 degrees from the College of Agriculture. He has a bachelor's, master's, and PhD, all from the College of Agriculture. And so his job was also with the Ag Center. He spent his entire career with the Ag Center, working in 4-H and junior livestock programs. So my brother and I grew up showing livestock. So it's been in my blood for as long as I can remember. So the 4-year-old Allison started showing sheep. And then that picture up at the top, that's my dad and I after my first cow show. I was incredibly proud, I think, of that 7th place finish in my class. But one of the biggest highlights of my livestock show career was that middle picture and winning reserve champion Brahman bull at the LSU livestock show here on campus. And I think I was in the 8th grade in that picture. But so it's been in my blood for as long as I can remember. I'm very proud of the family lineage. Not only did my grandfather graduate from the College of Agriculture, my dad, my mom also graduated from the College of Agriculture. She graduated in home economics, which I don't believe is a degree program in the college anymore. But I get to claim her as a College of Ag grad as well. And so my brother is also a College of Agriculture graduate. He graduated in NREM back in the mid-2000s. So we have a pretty heavy family lineage of being College of Ag supporters and graduates. So let me go back. Well, I'll stay on this one. I really honestly didn't have a choice of where I was going to go to school, because obviously we had a very rich family history of being LSU Tigers. Like I said, I'm a Baton Rouge native, so it was just bred into me. I did joke with my dad for a while in high school that I wanted to go to Texas A&M, and my dad was actually an adjunct professor in the Department of Animal Science at that time, and he was like, absolutely not. So I set my sights on LSU pretty much in the beginning, and stuck that course. And I wanted to say, you know, I had a path set out for me by those two men. I idolized them growing up, and I watched what they did, the work they did, and how they interacted with the community and the world at large through agriculture. And I knew that's what I wanted to do with my life. I have a very distinct memory. My dad and the work that he did, he was the state sheep and goat specialist at one point in his career. And he would go around the state working with sheep and goat producers. And sometimes he would take my brother and I with him on those visits. And I have a very distinct memory. I was about probably 6 years old, and I'd gone with him to visit a producer in Zachary, right up the road. And they were sorting lambs that day on the farm. And he set me up on top of a gate in the barn and just told me to hang out while they sorted lambs. And I, at that moment, knew I wanted to work with animals, that I wanted to work in agriculture. This is what I wanted to do with my life. Very distinct memory for me, you know, being that young. And I truthfully stuck to that goal all the way up until I got to LSU. I came to LSU as an animal science major, pre-vet, was going to go to vet school and be a large animal veterinarian, and stuck that course out until probably the end of my sophomore, beginning of my junior year. And I realized I had enjoyed my time at LSU quite a bit. I didn't have terrible grades, but I didn't know if I was going to have grades that would make me competitive for vet school. And so I started to think about, what am I going to do if vet school doesn't pan out? And I started to have conversations with my parents and talk about, what could I possibly do? Where will my life lead if I don't follow through on this dream of mine that I've had since I was about 6 years old? What am I going to do? And so I started to think about what other passions I had. And I don't know if any of you were involved in 4-H growing up, but I had come to campus in 4-H back in junior high and high school, and gone to what they called 4-H short course, which turned into what is now called 4-H University, and had competed in meat identification and had actually been pretty decent at it, decent enough to win an awards trip my senior year of high school for the national competition to represent Louisiana. So I decided, after talking to my parents and kind of mulling over my options, at that time, animal science had a meat science concentration, and I was one of the first students to take on that concentration. So I swapped over from pre-vet into meat science and decided I was going to go and work for meat and poultry industry companies. And then I got a couple more semesters down the road and started to have those same thoughts of, what if this doesn't pan out? There's not really any big meat and poultry companies based here in Louisiana. I don't know if I'm quite ready to leave home, to leave the nest. If I can't find a job in that industry, what am I going to do? And so again, I started to have those conversations with my parents, and my dad happened to be friendly with the head of the Department of Food Science at that time, Dr. Mike Moody. And we sat down and had a conversation, and he told me about all of the different programs, things that they could do in their program. and options that they had in their program at that time. At that time, they had several different concentrations that you could go into in food science. And so I was mulling it over, left brain, right brain, Allison, trying to figure out which way she wanted to go. Did she want to be creative and go down the product design, product development route, or more analytical, more scientific, and work in food safety, microbiology? And ultimately that right side of my brain won out, and I stuck with food safety and applied microbiology. I've always had a passion for biology. And if you hear people that work with me talk about me, they'll laugh because I do get kind of nerdy when I talk about bacteria from time to time. I do have a favorite bacteria, and if you want to ask later on, I'll tell you what it is. But yeah, so I stuck with food science and started to go down that path, and ultimately got my bachelor's degree in food science in 2004, and then stuck around. I got a master's degree under Dr. Marlene James in food science in 2006. While I was on campus, mainly these are mostly undergraduate pictures, and Lizzie probably recognizes some faces in these pictures. I was a member of Les Voyageurs. I have very fond memories of Les Voyageurs, and they are a part of the reason I can stand up here today and talk to you, because they helped create me into the person I am today. I came to LSU quite shy, quite, I guess, just a quiet person, not very talkative. And now to hear friends and coworkers talk, I have a hard time shutting me up. So they're a reason for that. They helped make me into that person. So this is one of our group pictures. I believe that's probably about 2003, 2004, the formal picture. That top picture, those are some of my sorority sisters, some of my closest friends still to this day. They had competed in the Block and Bridle Rodeo in the goat tying competition, I think, and have won first place. So we were celebrating in the stands in the Coliseum in that picture. And in that bottom picture, a group of us, Les Voyageurs, actually attended the National Agriculture Ambassadors Conference at Cal Poly University. That was spring of 2002. First time I'd ever been to California, fell in love with California on that trip. Told my mom she's gonna have to buy a plane ticket to come visit me after college because I was moving to California. Ultimately didn't happen, but I loved it, and try to go back to that specific area anytime I can. But we'd gone out there. This was a conference of Les Voyager type groups from all over the country. We made friends from the University of Florida, University of Tennessee, from universities out there on the West Coast. And it was just a great time for us to bond as a group, and also to go share successes that we had had as a group with others and hear some of their successes and bring them back to LSU. So a really fantastic time. These are some more collegiate memories. That top photo over there was a group of us from Sigma Alpha back in, I think that was 2001, actually went to our national convention in Kansas City, Missouri. It's hard to tell. We're actually at the Ag Hall of Fame in Kansas City, just outside of Kansas City. Pretty cool little place to visit if you're ever in that area. And they've got all kind of old implements and just really talk about farming and its importance to our country. And so we had an opportunity to do that, to have some professional development as undergraduate students by attending that, which led me to take on multiple leadership positions within Sigma Alpha. Got to serve as first vice president, got to serve as recruitment chair and other chairs within the sorority. And that led me to develop skills in event planning and program planning and leadership. That bottom picture down there is where I had planned and hosted our regional conference for Sigma Alpha chapters from all over the Southeast United States. So we had probably around 100 Sigma Alpha sisters here on campus for a weekend. We got to show them LSU and what makes us unique in South Louisiana. So it was a really good time. And again, took those skills that I learned doing that into my career a couple years down the road. And then this last picture, I got the opportunity while I was in grad school, multiple times, as just one example, to go present my graduate research at the Institute of Food Technologists meeting in Orlando in 2006. And to tie it, my career and my education kind of have had this circuitous route. Like I said, I started off in meat and poultry, didn't end up wanting to be pigeonholed into that industry. So switched over to food science, ended up studying fresh fruits, fresh cut fruit, and antimicrobial, the antimicrobial effect of two compounds on fresh cut fruit, fresh cut cantaloupe specifically, in my graduate research. And then those two things kind of collided, and I've had the chance to use both of those experiences in my career thus far. So my career timeline, I left here in 2006 and started with Pilgrim's Pride. Like I said, was a baby bird that was not quite ready to leave the nest of Louisiana just yet, even though I was putting out feelers all over the country for a job. I ultimately ended up getting a contact of somebody at the Pilgrim's Pride plant in Farmerville, Louisiana, while I was here on campus. So a connection that I made here ultimately helped me land my first job outside of college. I started as a management trainee. And again, my education was food safety and quality assurance, microbiology. But that management trainee position allowed me to see the entire operation for a poultry plant. I had never, again, I wanted to work in the meat and poultry industry, but had never spent time in a poultry plant. So I got to see the entire process. I worked in live operations for a while, actually going out to chicken farms, going into chicken houses, helping them take samples, blood samples, tissue samples, checking to make sure that the birds had adequate feed, water, lighting, and ventilation to keep them healthy. Worked in the hatchery, and I was actually telling somebody just yesterday that memory of working in the hatchery for a couple of days still sticks with me, because if you imagine a chick chirping and multiply that by thousands, that noise still lives in my brain today. So it was quite overwhelming to be there even just a couple of days. So I was glad to be done with that when I was done with it. Then I got to move into the feed mill. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the poultry industry, most of those companies are what they call vertically integrated. So they basically control all of the inputs for growing and harvesting those birds. So they had their own feed mill. They would bring the feed stuff into the feed mill via tanker truck or rail car. So I got to see that, got to see them unloading all of that, and then watch them formulate feeds for the different growth stages of those birds, and then mix those via computer. Again, pretty snazzy to watch all that happen, and then see it trucked out to farms for the different growth stages of those birds. Then I got to finally get to the plant and start working in the plant, and started off with our live haul, which is the guys that actually bring the birds from the farm to the plant to be harvested, to be slaughtered. So to watch them safely load those birds by the thousands into cages, onto trucks, and then get them safely to the plant, off the trucks, and into the plant was very interesting to watch. I got to work on continuous improvement projects with my coworkers during that time to around animal welfare, because these companies have animal welfare standards that they have to meet. And so we were working to improve animal welfare for the birds that were coming in to that plant. And so I got to work on that and develop a little bit of that, the procedures that we would then follow for animal welfare. Then I finally got to work in the plant, the actual plant, and started off in first processing, which is slaughter evisceration, where the live bird comes in and it is mechanically eviscerated to then go on into second processing, which that's when that whole carcass is broken down into its various parts to then be packaged and sent out into commerce. So I got to work in both of those, and finally got to spend some time where I wanted to be, which was QA, quality assurance. And so I spent a couple of weeks with them watching what they did to make sure that the plant was following all of their plans and procedures and that everything is being produced in a wholesome manner. So when I finished that management training position, I was being moved into an actual role within the company, but they did not have one in quality assurance like I wanted. So I moved into a production supervisor position for a few months, and in that position was responsible for all the lines coming off of the debone line. So for those of you not familiar with poultry production, they'll take that whole carcass, they'll split it in half. You've got the front half, which is the breast and the wings, basically, and the back half is the back of the spine, the legs. And so we would take that front half on a debone line, and you would take, the breast would go in one direction, the tenders would go in another, the wings would go in yet another direction. So I got all of the lines that were coming off of that debone line, and I was making sure that my employees were following customer specification, again, following company policies and procedures to make sure that everything was done in a wholesome manner, and just making sure that we got the job done day in and day out. So finally, I got to move over into QA and was a QA supervisor, and then moved up to a QA superintendent, and was there for about a year as a QA superintendent. And I went on vacation and came back. I actually came home for my brother's wedding and came back to work the next week to find out that I was losing my job. The company had decided that they were selling that facility and they were going to close it down, and we were all going to lose our jobs. So pretty devastating to be a young person through no fault of your own, to be losing a job and wondering, what am I going to do next? Well, thankfully, after a tense about month and a half, Foster Farms actually stepped in and said, hey, we want to buy that facility. We're still going to shut it down and bring our people in and rework some things, but you'll have the opportunity to come back and reapply and re-interview for positions in our company. So I did end up actually getting laid off for about a month until I got to go back to work for Foster Farms, same facility, as a QC superintendent, quality control superintendent. And in that role, at first, we actually at that facility had what's considered a raw plant. That's that slaughter facility. And there's a cook plant where they par fry, par cook, and fully cook chicken to go out into commerce. And so I was actually over QC on both sides at first, and then moved over and was just over the raw side. But when we first came back, I don't know if anybody is familiar with listeria. So in that fully cooked room, it's hermetically sealed. You had to wear special garb to go in, and definitely take precautions to make sure there's no cross contamination between the fully cooked product and things that were outside of that room. So when we came back, we were having a really big problem with listeria showing up in our fully cooked room. And we were taking environmental samples upon environmental samples throughout the day, daily. I mean, we in fact had a map of the entire facility, and we would mark on a grid exactly where we were taking samples every day. We were taking hundreds of samples, it seemed like, on a daily basis. Could not figure out where it was coming from. And finally, as a team, we were able to troubleshoot and figure out where it was coming from. We were able to knock it out because, again, we didn't want anything that was fully cooked, because if it's fully cooked, you could technically thaw it out and eat it as is, not having to heat it up. Not that most people would do that, but we didn't want to take the risk of sending something out into commerce that could make somebody sick. So we worked really hard to figure out where it was coming from. We finally figured out where it was coming from. And as a team, we're able to knock that out. And that was a really arduous time. And we were really worried about getting it under control, but we were able to work through as a team. And so, again, I was learning lessons there on the job about teamwork and about problem solving. And when one solution doesn't work, how do you go back to the drawing board and reconfigure? And so really, really proud of that work that we did as a team to get that under control. And then the other highlight I have from that time frame was we were told fairly early on when we opened back up that Walmart wanted to have us as a supplier. And in order to do that, we had to pass this strenuous food safety audit called a BRC audit with Walmart, and that stands for British Retail Consortium. And it's a pretty, like I said, pretty arduous food safety audit. And it typically was taking facilities 6 months to a year to prepare for that audit to be able to pass it. We had 6 weeks. So we were working around the clock to prepare for that audit. And once the week came that the audit was there, the auditors were there, we finished up that audit with a B, the A being the highest score you get. We ended up with a B, and we were so incredibly excited about that B because we didn't expect to be able to pass it in 6 weeks' time. And so we were excited about that, and then went right back to work the next day, working on getting the A, and we're able to get the A grade with that audit standard the next year. And so, and I'm sure they're still to this day working with that. Also, as a part of that role, got to work with product development at Costco. They were another one of our major customers. And so I still go into Costco today and look for the P number. Every poultry plant has a P number. And so I'll go and look at their products to see if it came from that plant. Even though I haven't worked there in 10 years, I'm still looking to see if they're producing for Costco. So it was really kind of fun to get to work with these major companies on developing new products and packaging for their stores. Then in 2012, I moved to Central Mississippi and took a job with Pico Foods as a QA manager. So I had responsibility for that entire complex's food safety and quality assurance program, and was there until I came home to the Baton Rouge area in 2016. And I've been with the Department of Agriculture since December of 2016. So December this year makes 6 years for me. And time truly does fly when you're having fun. And that's not a cliche. I really do enjoy the work that I do there. I enjoyed my work in the private sector, but having been someone that was regulated in the private sector by USDA, I kind of like being on the other side now, being the regulator. And I take the experiences I had as someone in a regulated facility and apply those to the work that I do now, because I feel like it's important to approach these facilities and these growers with a sense of compassion as much as you can, because that's their livelihood. And I certainly don't want to unnecessarily put someone under duress if I can help them work through a situation as a regulator. Sometimes I'm not able to do that, but I do try to approach every situation with that mindset that I was them at one point, and how would I want to be treated? How would I want this situation to be handled? And so I try to handle it as best I can to make it easy on them. So I started with the department as a program manager for the FSMA produce safety program. And again, that's that produce experience coming back into play. I didn't intend to go back into produce, but I got to work in that program. So I was brought in as program manager. And as a part of that, I don't know if anybody's familiar with FSMA. FSMA stands for Food Safety Modernization Act. That is the largest change in our food safety laws in this country in nearly a century. It was signed into law in 2011 by President Obama. And that law essentially tasked FDA with creating rules for food safety rules for the entire food system in our country, moving our food system from a reactive approach to a proactive approach. So instead of waiting for an outbreak to occur, we're actually actively trying to keep them from happening. And so that's what these rules were designed to try to do. So the produce safety rule is one of the 7 rules that were created as a part of FSMA. Basically, there's a rule for everything from farm to fork now. And this is the first time that produce growers in the country have actually been under regulation when it comes to food safety. There have been voluntary food safety rules for them that they could follow, but they didn't have to follow. This is something if they fall under the produce safety rule, then they have to comply with that law. It is a law. So I came in and was FDA gave LDAF funding to stand up a program. So I came in as program manager to help design and implement that program here in Louisiana. We are the regulators for the produce safety rule in Louisiana. So that program is just under 6 years old now, and we're still in the development process and still will be for quite a while as we get out there and educate our growers on what their responsibilities are under that law. About 8 months ago, I took on my current role, which is Assistant Director of Poultry and Eggs and Food Quality Services. So as a part of that role, I still do have oversight over the produce safety rule program, but I also oversee other fruit and vegetable programs. We have a good agricultural practices audit program that's got voluntary food safety that I was talking about for them. And then we also have retail inspectors for poultry or for eggs here in the state. And they go into retail locations and they're checking to make sure that eggs that are being sold in retail locations, eggs and egg products, are meeting our egg marketing law here in Louisiana. Are they stored properly? Are they labeled properly? Are they within the time frame that they should be? They should be of a certain age range from the day that they were laid. So we have inspectors that go in and actually do that work and make sure that stores are complying with that law. And we also have some graders that grade poultry products in plants. That plant that I was in North Louisiana, they're up there and they grade the products that come out of there to make sure that they're A grade and meet USDA grade standards. So some advice for you, I would say, going back to my own personal story, it's never too late to make a change. If you have a passion for something and you're currently on a path that you're not quite so passionate about, it's never too late to make a change. It might add some time to your time here at LSU. It certainly added a year to my time. I wasn't mad about it because I was here for the 2004 national championship season. But you know, it's never too late to make a change. Do what makes you happy. Do what you are passionate about, and work truly will never feel like a job if you're passionate about what you're doing. Always stay true to yourself. And I'm still learning that lesson at 41 years old, to be true to yourself. And if you're passionate about something and something feels right to you, stay true to that. Don't be swayed by other opinions. Everybody's going to have an opinion of you, and you just can't let that matter. You can't let them sway you off your path. And again, still learning that lesson at 41 years old. And I want to pass that on to you. Don't let others sway you off a path that you're passionate about and that makes you happy and brings you joy. Take advantage of all the opportunities that are presented to you, not just here at LSU, but just in life. If somebody says, hey, we're going to Orlando to a meeting, jump in the bus. That's what we did. They took a whole bus of us down to Orlando for that meeting. Jump on the bus, and go and experience that, because you never know if you're gonna have that chance again. But on the flip side of that is know your limits, find your balance. Don't be so overcommitted or have the problem saying no, because again, that's still something that I'm learning at 41 is when to say no. Know your limits and don't overextend yourself, and make sure that whatever you're doing is pushing you closer to your purpose, closer to where you're meant to be in life, and growing and harvesting that best you, to take it back to my title. Definitely utilize all the resources that you have available here to you at LSU and in the College of Agriculture. We were talking about that right before we started. Y'all have so many more opportunities and resources than we had when we were here as students, and take advantage of them. That Ag Career Week, if you're not doing all of those activities that you possibly can, you're missing out, because that is setting you up for success for the future. So take advantage of the Career Center, everything that they have to offer, everything your professors have to offer. Take advantage of it, because that's what they're there for. Network with your professors outside of class, network with your classmates outside of class, because you never know when a connection is going to bring you to a path or to a place that you need to be. That's how it happened for me. That's how I got into the industry I was in for 10 years. I had a connection here on campus that gave me a phone number, and I called that person and I said, hey, do you have any jobs available? They said, we sure do. And then 10 years later, I'm working in fact, I'll tell you a funny story. I went to Farmerville for my interview with the HR manager, and my dad had said, just go up there, do the interview. If you get the job, work 6 months, and then you can come home. And the HR manager had actually told me, he said, once you start working in the poultry industry, you're never going to want to leave. And I was like, oh, that's not true. I'm going home in 6 months. I'm going back to Baton Rouge in 6 months. I'll have my experience. I can find another job. 10 years later, I finally left the industry. And I probably wouldn't have if these other opportunities hadn't presented themselves, because I did enjoy that work that I was doing. So network, find your connections, because you never know what opportunities lie on the other side of those connections. And then to plug the Alumni Association, remember where you came from. You came from the LSU College of Agriculture. I absolutely love having that connection and love being a part of the Alumni Association. So I'm gonna plug it for Lindsay. Be a part of it when you leave here, because it is so fantastic. Like to go to Cocktails and Cuisine last week and see people that were in those pictures with me earlier in the presentation. So that's a great way to, again, continue to network, continue to make connections post-college. So remember where you came from. Even if you can't give back to LSU monetarily, you can give back with your time and your effort. And that's all that the College of Ag really needs from us. I certainly can't be a high dollar donor, so I try to give up my time and my effort. And so you can certainly do that as young alumni when you leave here. So I highly suggest y'all get involved with the Alumni Association when you graduate, because it's definitely a great place to be. So with that, I'm gonna throw up a thank you, and that's my work email, my LinkedIn. If y'all want to connect on LinkedIn, I'm going to plug Louisiana Ed Commission, our website, and our socials. Go follow us on social media if you don't already follow us, because we're always posting fun stuff, fun recipes, great recipes for college kids, cheap and easy. So follow us. We are always having a good time. And yeah, so go Tigers, and I'll take some questions.
What's your favorite bacteria?
Oh, you're right.
Listeria is actually my favorite bacteria. And it's because it's just hard to get rid of. So
Where did you find, where was the listeria getting in?
it was actually there was a spiral freezer in that room. And it was actually getting up underneath the flooring in the spiral freezer. And so when people would actually walk on the flooring, it would come up in out from underneath the floor and would then be tracked on their shoes
Yeah.
into other parts of the room. So yeah, we had to like go in and completely rip it out and cost a lot of money to fix the problem, but it got fixed.
Who figured that out though? That's such a weird way for it to come in.
Honestly, I don't remember who finally figured it out. I think we honestly, I think started swabbing people's shoes.
Okay.
I mean, we were, at one point, I was literally like hanging off the ceiling, like swabbing the ceiling, swabbing air ducts. We were actually taking air samples in there to see if it was passing through the air. It was a wild time. But again, it was kind of fun, because we were problem solving and playing detective, trying to figure out where this problem was happening, so. I was gonna bring swag, but I forgot, so. Cause like, Ag Commission got good swag.
They do, they do. Talk about the omelet.
Oh, yeah, and I don't know if I can get it back.
You can, yeah, just hit back, I think.
Yeah,
On the arrows, should be on the air. There it is right there, yeah.
Oh, there, I just passed it up. Yeah, so this past weekend, she was asking me what I was gonna do this weekend. I was like, nothing, because this past weekend I was in Abbeville at the Giant Omelet Celebration. Ag Commission had a booth there. We go out to things like that. We've been going to farmers markets here lately, and interacting with the community, passing on egg nutrition information and recipes. And so this one, we were there at the Giant Omelet Celebration in Abbeville, just passing out fun stuff to kids and telling them why they should eat eggs. And this is a picture of them actually cooking the omelet. They started this 38 years ago. And I think the story is that there was a time during Napoleon's era in France, they were fighting and they actually stopped as an army and cooked a giant omelet. And so there are giant omelet celebrations commemorating that all over the world, particularly in French speaking countries. And Abbeville, part of Cajun country, they picked that tradition up. And so for 38 years, they've been cooking a 5,000 plus egg omelet. They actually count the eggs that day, they crack them on site, and then they're poured into that giant skillet. They add one egg per year. So this year it was 5,038 eggs in that omelet. They add crawfish tail, they had onions, bell peppers. They had girls from New Iberia that actually walk around with full-size bottles of Tabasco sauce and pour Tabasco in the omelet to season it. You can actually go to their website. They have the whole recipe. It's like 52 pounds of butter are used to cook the omelet. It's crazy like how much they use to cook this omelet, but it was really cool to see. And it was neat to see them celebrate Cajun heritage and, really celebrate that and enjoy themselves as a community. So I'd highly suggest if you've got some time next year, it's always say that again.
What's it called?
The Giant Omelet Celebration. It's always, unfortunately, it's always the weekend of the LSU Alabama game. So, but next year
We'll be here.
We'll be out of town. We'll be in Tuscaloosa playing, so maybe you can fly over there. And they cook it on Sunday, so it's not on Saturday at the game. They right over there on Sunday after the game. And they also, once they're done cooking it, they serve it to the community with some French bread from a bakery in that area. So pretty neat thing that I got to experience for the first time this past weekend with the Ag Commission. So.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, well, thank you, Allison. We appreciate you coming in, and go Tigers.